You guys, I just can't resist. I always go on eBay and I see stuff like this. It's a sealed second generation iPod Touch and it was $70. Of course I gotta buy that, are you kidding me? Even though this isn't a first generation iPod Touch, this one is arguably more significant. See that icon there on the home screen that says App Store? Yeah, this iPod came out just 60 days after the App Store launched in July of 2008. And that meant that this iPod Touch was positioned extremely well because with the launch of the iPhone 3G, iPhone OS2, and the App Store, there was a huge market of people that weren't ready to spend $400 on a carrier subsidized phone, but were ready to spend $229 to get the exact same operating system cut back a little bit. And as Steve Jobs pointed out at the launch event for this thing, 100 million app downloads had already taken place by the time this launched. So this was literally a gold mine for Apple. So I think it's time to open up this piece of history for the first time, but first I gotta pay the bills. So here's a word from today's video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Ugreen. Their new Nexode charging products include the hyper-fast 140-watt charger to juice up your Apple Silicon devices with the PD 3.1 protocol. You can charge up a 16-inch MacBook Pro to 56% battery in just 30 minutes with a charger this small. It features 2 USB-C ports and 1 USB-A to power 2 14-inch laptops and your phone simultaneously. And Ugreen's power dispenser system intelligently adjusts power outputs to protect the batteries of your devices and prevent overheating. Ugreen also offers a 100-watt variant of the Nexode, which can deliver 100 watts to a single USB-C device or split power between 3 USB-C ports and 1 USB-A. Plus, complement your setup with the Ugreen 9-in-1 USB-C docking station. With DisplayLink technology, you can extend up to 2 4K 60Hz monitors via HDMI or DisplayPort, and it also features 100-watt USB-C, 2 USB-A 3.2 ports, and gigabit Ethernet. Right now, you can check out Ugreen Prime Day deals with up to 40% off. So check the links in the description below to learn more, and with that, let's get back to the video. So this is definitely exciting and a little nerve-wracking. I always get antsy when I unbox sealed iOS devices because I don't want to damage them. So we've got a little piece of tape that just peels off the top, and man, the residue on that tape has not lasted, so that was not satisfying at all. All right, here we go. Time to open up this iPod Touch second generation for the first time. This is the first time the iPod Touch got one of these cool clear cases where you can actually see the device. Oh, look at that. Oh, that is so clean. That is not something that you see anymore because every iPod that came out with these stainless steel backs got absolutely obliterated with scratches from the particles of air in the room. This is the most easily scratched device finish that Apple ever launched, but we've got a fresh one right here. That is really something. And I have to say, this iPod Touch goes really well with my brand new iPhone 3G that I unboxed last year. These devices both came out in 2008 and they both get scratched super easily, so now I have the perfect pair of 2 undamaged survivors. So let's set the iPod off to the side for now, and we'll take a look at what comes in the box. Pretty minimal packaging here. We get our iPod Touch user manual, and oh, I forgot that this existed. It's an adapter for the iPod Universal Dock, and so whenever you'd get an iPod, it would come with the insert that would fit the shape of your device. Let's see what else we have in here. This looks like a microfiber cloth rolled up. Oh, and it even says iPod on it. That's amazing. This is the same general shape as what you got on the iPhone, but this one is embossed with iPod. I love that. I love the microfiber cloth so much. Then of course we have our USB dock connector and the infamously terrible earbuds that came with all the iPods until 2012 when Apple finally fixed them. This iPod may have been sold in France because the quick start guide on top is in French, and then below it there's an English quick start guide that shows all the major features that we all know and love. Go home, sleep, wake. This actually was the first iPod to feature volume buttons on the side. Very nice to see. And then of course we have our teeny tiny little Apple stickers. Look how cute those are. Okay, so now it's the moment of truth. It's time to get our iPod Touch out. and power it on for the first time. Oh, that adhesive is really on there. Oh, look at that. Now we should just be able to lift it up. Oh, we have to bend it back and then it releases. Look at that. Oh, it's so beautiful. Look at how clean and fresh and new it is. That stainless steel looks incredible. And look how thin this thing is. Remember, this came out in 2008, just a year after the original iPhone. And you can really see the difference in how thin this device is. Put them front to front. Look at that. This thing was tiny. But now the moment of truth comes, which is it going to work? I've had surprisingly good luck unboxing old iPhones and iPods. I haven't had a single one which had a dead battery after all that time. So my expectations are high. No, I don't want to put this down on a table or even look at it too hard because I'm afraid it might scratch. All right, we've got ourselves a little bit of microfiber protection to keep everything nice and secure, and I've got a PC laptop over here that we're gonna use to hopefully get some apps installed. So first, let's see if we can power on and set up this iPod Touch. Oh, it's booting right away. Geez, we're boot looping here. Yeah, I don't know why it's trying to power on. There it goes. There's the charging battery indicator. Good. Let's leave it for a little bit. Come back when it's charged. Oh, the PC just made a USB device connection sound, and it needs us to connect to iTunes. So it looks like we might be in business here. So we've had some time to charge here, and we're gonna try to activate with my first gen MacBook Pro running 10.6. Okay, we're plugged in. Let's go ahead and open iTunes. It's showing up. Yes! Oh, I love doing this all period accurate too. We get to see the old welcome to your iPod interface, the classic software license agreement. We don't need to read that. Continue. I wonder, I could set this up from a backup here. I think we're gonna set up as new just so that we get that new experience. So let's see if that's gonna install any of the apps that I had set up from other phones. Sync is in progress here, and it's copying over some files. So I'm not sure what it's gonna bring over. And there it is, slide to unlock. Oh, look at that! So it didn't bring over any other applications, but let's see if it synced up my music. Okay, it didn't do that either. Sweet. Now what's interesting here is that we're running iPhone OS 2.2.1. So I'm pretty sure this iPod actually was manufactured a little after launch because it should have been on an earlier version when this thing came out. But now that the device is activated, we can check out this iPod Touch in all of its untouched glory. But with a device this pristine, it felt a shame to not use it a little bit. And the big driving force that propelled this iPod Touch to huge success was the focus on mobile games. Apple basically marketed this as a handheld game console, so I had to give it a go and install some retro iOS games. How hard could it be? Turns out, very. See, the problem is iOS 2.2.1 is much harder to use than later versions, and very few tools still exist to get stuff working on these devices. Anything prior to iOS 6 is basically locked out of the App Store, so to get any apps on here, we're going to have to get creative. And by that I mean jailbreak. So it was on to some forums to find the right tools. I settled on Red Snow as it boasted explicit support for iOS 2 on the iPod Touch. But in order to get that to actually work, I ended up downloading this really old version. So old that it ran in command line. And that didn't work because it got stuck running on Windows, so I moved over to a MacBook Pro running Snow Leopard. And then it actually worked. I now have a jailbroken, brand new iPod Touch. However, this old version of Cydia is practically unusable, and tweaks that resurrect it don't really work on this old version either. I ended up spending hours and hours trying a ton of different methods, but what ended up working for me was using SSH to manually install an old version of mobile installation, a patch that lets you install cracked apps. Collin AKA DOS Dude helped me learn how to inject files over SSH, and he came up with this command structure that injects the file, creates a backup so the process can be reverted, and then applies it. After running these commands and restarting the iPod Touch, I went back to my Snow Leopard Mac and installed iFunbox and grabbed some app IPAs off Internet Archive, and oh my gosh, they showed up. But unfortunately, they didn't work! Still! At this point, frankly, I was mad. I had spent way too long on this video, and then all of a sudden, after disabling and re-enabling the patch, it worked. For no obvious reason. Ecstatic, I piled on a bunch of retro games, and we are now good to go. Honestly, I'm just so glad that I finally got this to work, because after like 7 hours of trying, it was going to be really sad if I had to end this video without running a single application on it. But fortunately, I got to relive the glory days of early iOS games. I even managed to find the exact game that Apple demoed live on stage at their keynote address when they launched this iPod.
The animations and graphics and interactivity is just incredible. So here I am, this is a Petri dish, and you may not recognize me, but that's me.
That's right, it's Spore Origins, one of the first games that launched on the App Store, and it's really cool to play the exact same game that was demoed 15 years ago. So yeah, I definitely went through hell and back to get this iPod experience, and I know that there are going to be those out there who will say, well, Luke, you can buy a second-gen iPod Touch for like 20 bucks on eBay, put an actually usable version of iOS on it, and have 90% of the same experience, and that may be true. However, to be able to have a perfect, pristine new iPod as it came out of the box, with all the period apps, including the one that Apple actually demoed at the keynote where this thing was announced 15 years ago, yeah, that's pretty cool. And you know what? It wasn't even that much more expensive. I only spent 70 bucks on this sealed iPod Touch. How can you say no to this? This thing is absolutely perfect. The battery holds a charge really, really well. I was playing games on it for like 20 minutes and I'm still at like 80%. This battery was in a box for 15 years. How is it still this good? And you know what else is good? The speaker. Oh yeah, that's some early iOS days classic right there. Oh, hang on a second. I think my facial hair is getting a bit too long. I've got just the thing. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Absolutely perfect. I absolutely love the early days of iOS devices and the early apps on the App Store. I mean, they were just so goofy and silly, just meant to be fun. They weren't contributing to the spread of misinformation or getting kids addicted to gambling yet. They were just fun. And the iPod Touch was a really important transitional device because when the iPhone first came out, these early years, it was very expensive and not many people could afford to get one. But at $229, this is a much more justifiable purchase. And so it got more people on iOS and it gave app developers more of an audience. So it's ironic because the iPod Touch propelled the iPod to new heights of sales and then promptly killed it off. Because once people got a taste of iOS and what it could do and the iPhone became more affordable, well, why have an iPod? Just have one device that does it all. So it'll definitely be interesting to see if Apple can repeat this magic trick with the Vision Pro, an entry-level model that gets more people on board as we transition to full-time Vision Pro adoption. Let's see what happens. But you don't have to wait and see what happens if you hit the subscribe button, because you can do it right now and see lots more great videos. Did you like that transition? I sure did. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.